She was thrown to the wolves, but the one who found her was their king. The scars began at her collarbone and traveled down her left arm like a map of survival. Fire had claimed her when she was 6. The pack house blaze that took her parents also took her beauty, or so they said. Cale Thorne, her mate, said it loudest. Ilara stood in the center of the ceremonial circle, wrists bound with iron rope that burned against her skin. The full moon hung above the clearing like a judge's eye, silver and unblinking. Around her, the Crescent Ridge pack gathered in silence. Some looked away. Others stared with the hunger of those who loved watching the fallen. Ilara Moss, Cale's voice cut through the night. He stood on the stone platform, dressed in ceremonial blacks, his face carved from indifference. I, Cale Thorne, Alpha of Crescent Ridge, reject you as my mate before the goddess and this pack. The bond snapped. It felt like drowning in ice. Her knees buckled, but the guards held her upright. She would not give them the satisfaction of her collapse. You are hereby exiled, Kyle continued, each word a blade, banished beyond our borders. Should you return, you will be killed on sight. Ilara lifted her chin. Her scarred hand trembled, but her voice did not. I accept your rejection, Cale Thorne, and I thank the goddess for showing me your truth before I wasted my strength on your weakness. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Kyle's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He had what he wanted, freedom to claim Seren, the golden-haired daughter of the Beta, unscarred and acceptable. The guards dragged Ilara toward the northern border, where the mountains began their climb into perpetual winter. They threw her into the snow beyond the last marker stone and left without a word. She lay there as the cold seeped into her bones. The moon watched. She wondered if the goddess watched too, or if she had turned her face away long ago. Then she heard it. A howl, deep and ancient, rolled down from the peaks. Not a pack call. Something older. Something that made the trees lean away and the wind hold its breath. Ilara forced herself to stand. Her thin dress clung to her like a second skin of ice. She had no supplies, no shelter, no plan beyond surviving until dawn. The howl came again. Closer. She ran. Her bare feet left blood in the snow. The forest swallowed her, branches clawing at her face and arms. Behind her, the howl became many howls, a chorus of pursuit. Not her former pack. Something else. Something that hunted in the king's territory. She broke into a clearing and stopped. Before her stood a wolf the size of a horse, its fur black as a moonless sky, its eyes burning gold. Blood matted its shoulder where an arrow shaft jutted out. The beast swayed, panting clouds of steam into the frozen air. Their eyes met. The bond hit her like lightning. Not the mate bond. Something deeper, older, written in a language she did not know she could read. The wolf's eyes widened in recognition, in shock, in something that looked almost like relief. Then it collapsed. Ilara's body moved before her mind caught up. She dropped to her knees beside the fallen creature, hands hovering over the wound. The arrow was silver-tipped, poison to their kind. Already the flesh around it blackened and smoked. I don't know if you understand me, she whispered, but I'm going to try to help. The wolf's eyes tracked her movements. Intelligence burned there, human intelligence trapped in a beast's form. She gripped the arrow shaft. This will hurt, she pulled. The wolf's roar shook snow from the trees. It thrashed once, then went still, sides heaving. Ilara pressed her scarred hand against the wound, feeling the silver poison trying to spread. Her palm grew hot, then burning, then something else entirely. Light poured from her hand, silver as moonlight, warm as summer sun. The poison hissed and retreated. New flesh knitted over the wound, clean and whole. Ilara stared at her hand in shock. She had never healed anything in her life. The wolf began to shift. Bones cracked and reformed. Fur receded into skin. The massive beast contracted, reshaped, became a man kneeling in the snow, naked and gasping. He was beautiful in a brutal way. Dark hair fell past his shoulders. His body bore the scars of 100 battles, a map of survival that matched her own. But his eyes, still burning gold, held something she had never seen directed at her before. Wonder. "You're the Pathfinder," he said, his voice rough as stone grinding stone. "The healers said you were a myth." "I don't know what that means." He reached out slowly, as if afraid she might vanish. His fingers brushed her scarred cheek with a gentleness that made her throat close. "It means you were never meant for that pack." His hand dropped. "It means the goddess has been waiting a very long time to bring you to me." "Who are you?" "Dante Obsidian." He met her eyes. "Alpha King of the Northern Realm. And you just saved my life." The wind carried voices, shouts, the baying of hounds. "They're hunting you," Alara said, still kneeling in the blood-stained snow. Dante rose with the fluid grace of a predator, seemingly unconcerned by his nakedness or the cold. "They're hunting us now. You healed me. Your scent is on me, and mine on you. To them, you're my accomplice." "Who's them?" "Faction within my own court. They want my throne. They've wanted it since my father died." He tilted his head, listening to something she couldn't hear. "We have perhaps 3 minutes." Alara's legs shook as she stood. "I can't run anymore." "Then we don't run." Dante moved to a fallen log, brushing away snow to reveal a hidden cache. He pulled out dark clothing and dressed with efficient speed. "We fight." "I'm not a fighter. I'm nothing. An exiled Omega with a healing trick I didn't know I had until 5 minutes ago." He turned to her, and the intensity in his golden eyes made her breath catch. "You are not nothing. You are the first Pathfinder born in 3 centuries. Do you understand what that means? No. It means you can heal what others cannot. It means you can see what is broken and make it whole. It means—" He stopped, jaw tightening. "It means you are the most valuable person in this realm, and they will kill us both to ensure I cannot claim your power." The baying grew louder. Dante pulled a cloak from the cache and wrapped it around her shoulders. His hands lingered a moment longer than necessary. "Stay close to me. Whatever happens, do not use your gift again. They'll sense it." "Why did you shift back?" Alara asked, as he led her deeper into the forest. "Wouldn't you be stronger as a wolf?" "I was trapped. The silver arrow was cursed. It was killing me slowly, forcing me to remain in wolf form until I died." His voice carried old pain. "I've been running for 3 days, trying to reach my capital before the poison stopped my heart." "Why were you alone?" "Betrayed." The word came out flat, final. "My personal guard turned, sold me to the faction for promises of power. I killed 2 before the arrow found me." They moved through a landscape of white and shadow, the moon their only guide. Alara's feet had gone numb, but she forced herself to keep pace. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit grew fainter, confused. "You're leading them in circles," she realized. "I'm leading them into a trap." Dante stopped at the edge of a frozen stream. On the other side, the forest grew denser, darker. "Beyond this water lies the thornwood. Even my enemies fear it." "Why?" "Because the old magic still lives there, the kind that remembers when wolves were gods, and the moon spoke directly to her children." He turned to her. "It will test you. The forest judges all who enter. If it finds you wanting, it will not let you leave." Alara looked at the dark trees, then back at the voices growing louder again. "And if it accepts me? Then you'll be under its protection. Even a king cannot harm you there." "What about you?" Something flickered across his face. "I've walked the thornwood before. It tolerated me, but I am not what it seeks." The first hound broke through the trees, foam at its jaws, eyes red with bloodlust. Behind it came others, and men with torches and silver blades. Dante stepped in front of her, a wall of muscle and barely contained violence. Last chance, Pathfinder. Cross the stream, or stand and die beside a king you've known for less than an hour. Elara looked at his scarred back, at the way he positioned himself between her and death without hesitation. She thought of Kale, who couldn't bear to look at her scars. She thought of her pack, who dragged her to rejection like garbage to be discarded. Then she thought of the warmth in her palm when she healed this stranger, the rightness of it, as if her hands had finally found their purpose. She stepped beside him, not behind. "If I'm going to die tonight," she said, "I'd rather do it standing with someone who sees me than kneeling before those who never did." Dante's expression shifted into something fierce and proud. "Then we make them remember why they should have feared us." The pack descended. Dante shifted mid-leap, his massive black wolf form colliding with the lead hound in an explosion of fur and fury. Elara stumbled back, her healer's instinct screaming against the violence, but she forced herself to watch, to understand. He was magnificent, every movement economical, brutal, precise. He didn't fight like someone trying to win. He fought like someone who had already decided they were willing to lose everything. A man circled wide, silver blade aimed at Dante's exposed flank. Elara didn't think. She grabbed a fallen branch and swung with all her strength, connecting with his temple. The man dropped, blood in the snow. She stared at what she'd done, at her trembling hands. Dante dispatched the last hound and shifted back, blood on his mouth, eyes still burning gold. "You have good instincts, Pathfinder. I've never hurt anyone before." "You didn't hurt him. You protected." He took her hand, the scarred one, and pressed it to his chest where his heart hammered. "Feel that? That's what you saved. That's what you're worth fighting for." More torches appeared in the distance. "Time to cross," Dante said. They waded into the frozen stream, the water so cold it burned. On the other shore, the thornwood waited, ancient and patient. As Elara's foot touched the far bank, she felt it, a presence vast and old, turning its attention toward her like the opening of an enormous eye. The forest whispered a single word in a language older than speech. "Welcome." The thornwood accepted her like a mother accepts a lost child. Trees bent their branches to shelter them from the wind. Moss glowed with soft luminescence, lighting a path deeper into the forest. Behind them, the pursuers stopped at the stream's edge, afraid to cross. "They'll wait," Dante said, "and they'll send for reinforcements. We have until dawn." Elara's legs finally gave out. She collapsed against a massive oak, its bark warm despite the cold. Everything hurt. Her feet, her lungs, the hollow place where her mate Bond used to live. Dante knelt before her, examining her bloodied feet with a gentleness that seemed impossible from someone who'd just killed 3 creatures with his bare hands. "I need to see the wounds." "They're just cuts. They're infected with silver from the border markers. If we don't treat them, you'll lose the ability to walk." His eyes met hers. "Trust me." She did, and that terrified her more than the wounds. He pulled a small vial from his belt, uncorked it. The scent of pine and something sharper filled the air. "This will burn." It did. Elara bit down on her lip hard enough to draw blood as he cleaned each cut, but his hands remained steady, careful, treating her ruined feet as if they were precious. "Why are you being kind to me?" The question slipped out. Dante paused. "Why wouldn't I be? Everyone else saw my scars and decided I wasn't worth their time." "Then everyone else is a fool." He resumed his work, voice low. "I've been king for 7 years. Do you know what I've learned in that time?" "What?" "That beauty is common. Courage is rare. And you, Elara Moss, have more courage in your scarred hand than most warriors have in their entire bodies." She looked away, throat tight. "You don't know me. I know you pulled a silver arrow from a dying wolf without knowing if it would kill you. I know you stood beside me instead of running. I know you're still fighting, even though everything in your body is screaming to give up." He finished bandaging her feet and sat back. "That's enough for me to know you're worth knowing." The forest hummed around them, approving. "Tell me about the Pathfinder," Alara said. "What does it mean?" Dante settled against the tree beside her, close enough that she could feel his warmth. 3 centuries ago, the Pax were at war. The bloodshed nearly destroyed us all. Then the goddess sent the first Pathfinder, an Omega who could heal not just bodies, but souls. She walked between the warring Alphas and showed them what they'd become. By the time she died, the peace accords were signed. One person changed everything. One person reminded everyone what they'd forgotten, that strength without mercy is just cruelty dressed in power. Ilara touched her scarred arm. "And you think I'm like her?" "I think the goddess doesn't waste gifts. If she gave you this power now, it's because we need it." His jaw tightened. "Because I need it." "What do you mean?" He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of years. "My father was a great king, strong, decisive, feared. He ruled for 40 years, and no one dared challenge him. When he died, I tried to be him. I tried to rule with the same iron fist." He stared at his scarred hands. "But every decision I made created more enemies. Every show of strength bred more resentment. Now half my court plots against me, and I don't know how to stop it without becoming the tyrant they already think I am." "So don't," Ilara said simply. He looked at her, surprised. "Don't be your father. Don't be what they expect." She leaned her head back against the oak. "Be something new. Something they don't have a plan for." "And what would that be?" "A king who listens, who heals instead of hurts, who shows them there's another way to be strong." Dante's expression shifted through several emotions: skepticism, hope, something that looked like hunger. "You make it sound simple." "It's not simple. It's impossible. But so is surviving what we've already survived tonight." A smile ghosted across his face, the first she'd seen. "You're either very wise or completely insane. Can't it be both?" This time he laughed, a rough sound that startled a night bird from the branches above. The sound made something in Alara's chest loosen, warm. They sat in comfortable silence as the forest breathed around them. The moss light pulsed like a heartbeat. Somewhere deeper in the wood, wolves howled, but these were different from the pack that hunted them. Older, wilder, free. "Where will we go?" Alara asked. "When dawn comes." "North, to my capital, Obsidian Hold. If we can reach it, the faction cannot touch us. The old laws protect the throne room." "How far?" 3 days hard travel. "Through mountains and territories that don't all recognize my authority." He paused. "I won't lie to you, Alara. The journey will be brutal, and when we arrive, you'll be walking into a viper's nest of politics and power plays." "Sounds better than being dead in the snow." "Does it?" His golden eyes found hers in the dim light. "They'll see you as a threat, a tool, something to be controlled or eliminated. Staying with me makes you a target." "I was already a target. At least with you, I'm a target that can fight back. And now, I invite you to leave a trace of your presence in the comments. Tell us where in the world you're watching from, and the exact hour you hear this story. We wish to know how far these northern confessions travel, and at what moments of the night they find you. Dawn broke cold and clear. Alara woke to find Dante already moving through the forest, gathering supplies. He'd fashioned makeshift boots from bark and soft moss, reinforced with strips of his own cloak. When he returned, he knelt and fitted them carefully onto her bandaged feet. "They won't last forever," he said, "but they'll get you through today." "Thank you." He nodded once, then stood and offered his hand. She took it, and he pulled her up with easy strength. For a moment they stood close, his hand still clasping hers, both of them aware of the touch in a way that made the air feel charged. He released her first, turning toward the north. "Stay alert. The forest protected us through the night, but its favor can be fickle." They walked in single file, Dante leading. The thornwood gradually thinned as they climbed into the foothills. By midday, the ancient trees gave way to sparse pines and exposed rock. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of snow and something else, smoke. Dante stopped abruptly, nostrils flaring. A settlement, half a day ahead. Is that good or bad? Depends on whose territory we're in. He closed his eyes, testing the wind. Iron Peak Pack. Neutral in the civil conflict, but they hate outsiders. Will they help us? They'll tolerate us if we pay. Everything in Iron Peak has a price. He glanced at her, and they'll definitely notice a pathfinder. How can they tell? Your scent changed when you healed me. You smell like moonlight now. Any wolf with decent senses will know what you are. Alara wrapped the cloak tighter. What's our strategy? We trade for supplies, keep our heads down, and leave before sunrise. No heroics, no drawing attention. His eyes held hers. Can you do that? Can you? A wry smile. Fair question. They reached Iron Peak as the sun touched the western peaks. The settlement was built into the mountainside, houses carved from living rock, smoke rising from 100 chimneys. Guards stood at the main gate, armed with iron-tipped spears. The larger guard stepped forward as they approached. His eyes raked over them, lingering on Alara's scars, then on Dante's unmistakable bearing. State your business. Passage and supplies, Dante said calmly. We can pay. With what? You look like refugees. Dante reached into his belt and produced a single gold coin stamped with a black wolf. The guard's eyes widened slightly. That's a royal mark. It is. You're him. The king, they say, is dead. Do I look dead? The guard studied him for a long moment, then looked at his partner. Some silent communication passed between them. You can enter, but your companion stays out here. No, Dante said flatly. She's an Omega. Iron Peak law says unmated Omegas without pack affiliation must remain outside the walls. She's with me. Then you vouch for her? Take responsibility for any trouble she causes? Dante moved closer to the guard, and though he didn't raise his voice, the air suddenly felt heavy with dominance. I vouch for her. She is under my protection. Anyone who touches her answers to me. Is that clear? The guard swallowed hard. Crystal. They were allowed through. Iron Peak was a place of iron and stone, everything built to last, nothing wasted on beauty. The people who passed them in the narrow streets kept their eyes down, their faces hard. This was a pack that survived by being too tough to break and too poor to rob. Dante led them to a trading post near the center of the settlement. Inside, a woman with silver hair and calculating eyes looked up from her ledger. We need cold weather gear, food for 3 days, and information, Dante said. The woman's gaze moved between them. Information costs extra. How much? Depends on what you want to know. The southern route to Obsidian Hold. Is it clear? Her expression flickered. You're going to the capital. Is it clear? Dante repeated. No, the faction has checkpoints on every major road. They're searching for someone. Her eyes settled on Alara. A marked Omega and the missing king. The bounty is substantial. Alara felt her stomach drop. Then we'll take the mountain pass, Dante said. The Widow's Walk? That's suicide this time of year. The snows have already started. It's also unwatched. The woman studied him, then nodded slowly. You're either brave or desperate. I haven't decided which. She pulled supplies from the shelves, thick furs, dried meat, waterproof tinder. The gear will cost you 3 gold marks. Dante counted out the coins without hesitation. As the woman wrapped their supplies, She leaned closer. A word of warning, King. The faction isn't your only problem. There are rumors of something else hunting in the high peaks, something old that's been woken. What kind of something? The kind that makes even the mountain wolves run. She pushed the bundle across the counter. Watch the shadows. And whatever you do, don't follow the singing. Outside, the sun had set. The temperature dropped like a stone. Dante found them shelter in an abandoned mining shack on the settlement's edge. Inside, a single room with a broken stove and frost on the walls. "We rest here for 4 hours," he said. "Then we move while it's still dark." Alara nodded, too exhausted to argue. She curled into a corner, wrapped in the new furs. Despite the cold, she felt herself drifting toward sleep. Alara. She opened her eyes to find Dante crouched beside her. "I need you to understand something. The Widow's Walk is called that for a reason. Many have tried to cross it. Few survive. If something happens to me up there, I need you to promise you'll keep going north. Don't stop. Don't look back. Just get to Obsidian Hold and find a woman named Thera. She'll protect you. Nothing's going to happen to you. Promise me." She met his eyes. "Only if you promise the same. If I fall, you keep going. I won't leave you. Then I won't leave you." She held his gaze. "We cross together or not at all." Something raw moved across his face. He reached out, hesitated, then gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered against her scarred cheek. "You undo me," he whispered. "How is that possible? I've known you less than 2 days. Maybe we were supposed to know each other longer. Maybe we're just catching up." He leaned forward, and for a heartbeat she thought he might kiss her. Instead, he pressed his forehead to hers, eyes closed, breathing her in. "Sleep," he said roughly. "I'll keep watch." But she felt his gaze on her long after she closed her eyes, felt it like a physical warmth, and for the first time since the rejection, she didn't feel broken. She felt seen. The Widow's Walk began where civilization ended. They left Iron Peak before dawn, climbing trails that grew steeper and more treacherous with each passing hour. The path was barely visible, marked only by cairns left by previous travelers, those who'd survived. Snow fell in thick curtains. Dante moved ahead, breaking trail, his broad shoulders taking the worst of the wind. Alara followed in his footsteps, conserving her strength. Her makeshift boots held, but the cold seeped through everything. By midday they'd climbed above the tree line. Here, the world was only white and gray and the howl of wind through stone. The path narrowed to a ledge barely wider than Dante's shoulders, with a cliff face on one side and a drop into nothing on the other. "Don't look down," Dante called back. "Focus on my back, one step at a time." Alara did as he said, eyes fixed on the space between his shoulder blades. One step, another. The wind tried to push her off the ledge. She pressed closer to the rock face, her scarred hand finding holds in the stone. They were halfway across when they heard it. Singing. A woman's voice, clear and beautiful, rising from somewhere in the whiteness below. The melody was haunting, familiar in a way that made Alara's chest ache with homesickness for a place she'd never been. Dante froze. "Don't listen. What is it?" "I don't know, but the traitor warned us." He turned carefully on the narrow ledge. "Look at me, Alara. Only at me." She met his eyes. They burned gold, fierce, anchoring her to reality. The singing grew louder, more insistent. Words in an old language curled through the wind, promising warmth, safety, an end to suffering. Alara felt her body swaying toward the edge, toward the voice, toward... Dante's hand locked around her wrist. "No. It sounds so beautiful. It's death." He pulled her against him, her back to his chest, his arms wrapped around her like bands of iron. "It's trying to lure us off the mountain. Focus on my voice, not hers. I can't." "Yes, you can." His breath was warm against her ear. Listen to me. Think about Obsidian Hold. Think about the throne room with its black marble floors and silver thrones. Think about hot food and warm beds and being safe. Think about... His voice dropped lower, intimate. Think about having time. Time to heal. Time to discover who you are beyond the scars and the rejection. Time to become the person you were always meant to be. The singing faltered, grew frustrated. Alara's head cleared slightly, enough to realize how close she'd come to stepping into nothing. "Keep talking," she whispered. "I've never met anyone like you. You're fierce and fragile at the same time. You're broken and whole. You're..." He paused. "You're everything I didn't know I needed." The singing stopped. The silence was deafening. Then, from below, a shriek of rage echoed up through the canyon, so full of malice that Alara's knees buckled. Dante held her upright, turning them both back toward the path. "Move, now!" They ran across the ledge, feet slipping on ice, not caring about caution anymore. Behind them, something was climbing. They could hear it, the scrape of claws on stone, the wet rasp of breathing. The ledge widened ahead. Dante pulled them around a corner and into a crevice, pressing deep into shadow. Alara's heart hammered so loud she was sure it would give them away. The thing that pulled itself onto the ledge was human-shaped, but wrong. Too tall, limbs too long, skin pale as snow and just as cold. Its eyes were holes filled with frozen stars. When it opened its mouth, the singing poured out again. But this close, Alara could hear what it truly was, the death screams of every person who'd ever fallen from this mountain, layered over each other in an eternal chorus of despair. The creature turned its head slowly, searching. Its gaze passed over their hiding spot once, twice. Dante's hand found Alara's. He squeezed once, a warning, a comfort, a promise. The creature sang one more time, a question in the melody. When no answer came, it turned and climbed back down into the whiteness, taking the terrible song with it. They waited in the crevice until full dark, neither of them speaking, both listening for any sign of the creature's return. When Dante finally moved, his body was stiff with cold and tension. "We need to find shelter. We can't stay on the mountain overnight. I thought we were crossing in one push. That was before." He looked at the darkening sky. "We need fire and walls. There's an old watchtower, half a day ahead if we move fast." They moved fast. The watchtower appeared as a dark shape against the stars, a finger of stone pointing at the sky. The door had rotted away, but the structure was sound. Inside, out of the wind, Dante built a fire, while Alara collapsed against the wall. "We made it," she said, still not quite believing. "We're not across yet. Tomorrow we descend the eastern face. It's steep, but it's the last major obstacle." He fed the fire, coaxing it higher. "Then 2 days through the foothills, and we're home." Home. The word sounded foreign. Alara hadn't had a home since the fire took her parents. "Tell me about Obsidian Hold," she said. "What's it like?" Dante settled across from her, the firelight painting shadows on his face. "It's old, built by the first Alpha King 5 centuries ago, carved into the side of a mountain. The walls are black volcanic glass, hence the name. In the right light, they look like frozen night. It sounds dark. It is, but inside..." His expression softened. "Inside there are gardens. My mother built them before she died. Glass ceilings to let in the sun, heated by underground springs. In winter, when everything outside is frozen, the gardens bloom, roses and jasmine and things that shouldn't survive but do anyway." She sounds wise. She was. She told me once that a kingdom is only as strong as the gentleness it can afford to show. My father didn't understand that. He thought gentleness was weakness. Dante stared into the flames. "I think that's why she died young. She was too soft for his world." "Or maybe his world was too hard for her softness," Alara said quietly. "Maybe he should have changed, not her." Dante looked at her, something shifting in his expression. My father used to say the same thing you said at your rejection ceremony, that strength without mercy is just cruelty. But he said it as if it were a good thing, as if cruelty was a tool to be wielded. He paused. You said it like it was a warning, a line we shouldn't cross. Because it is. And if I've already crossed it, if I've already made choices that can't be unmade, Alara leaned forward, then you make better choices going forward. You don't get to undo the past, Dante. None of us do. But you get to decide who you are right now, in this moment, and in the next one, and the one after that. Is that what you're doing? Deciding who you are after the rejection? I'm trying. She touched her scars, a habit. I spent so long being what they told me I was. The damaged one, the burden, the omega too broken to matter. I want... Her voice caught. I want to be more than that. You are more than that. Dante moved around the fire to sit beside her. You're the woman who saved a dying king, who stood when she should have fallen, who crossed the widow's walk without breaking. He took her scarred hand in both of his. You're already more than they could ever see. Alara looked at their joined hands. His were scarred too, she realized. Different stories, same survival. When we reach Obsidian Hold, she said, what happens to me? You'll have a choice. You can stay as my guest, under royal protection, or... He hesitated. Or what? Or you can stay as something more. The court needs a pathfinder. The realm needs one. He met her eyes. I need one. Someone to help me find the path I've lost. Someone to heal what I've broken. I'm not qualified to heal a kingdom, Dante. I barely know how to heal a wound. You healed me. That's enough to start. The fire crackled between them. Outside, the wind screamed through the mountain passes, but in here, in this moment, Alara felt warm. Okay, she said. Okay, I'll stay. I'll try. I don't know if I can do what you're asking, but I'll try. The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise. He raised her scarred hand to his lips and pressed a kiss to the damaged skin, his eyes never leaving hers. That's all I ask, that you try. The rest... He paused. The rest we'll figure out together. The descent began at dawn, treacherous with ice and loose stone. They moved in careful silence, testing each step. Halfway down, Dante stopped abruptly, head tilted. Horses, he said. Below us, moving fast. At least 6 riders. Faction? Probably. They've sent scouts ahead to cut us off. He scanned the mountainside. There's a game trail to the east. It'll add half a day, but it keeps us hidden. They took the game trail. The path twisted through a forest of twisted pines, branches heavy with snow. Here, the world was muffled, sounds deadened by the white blanket over everything. Alara's new boots crunched softly with each step. Then she heard voices, not singing this time, arguing. Dante held up a hand. Wait. He moved forward silently, and Alara followed, careful to step where he stepped. They crept to the edge of a small clearing. 3 men stood around a bound figure kneeling in the snow. The prisoner was young, maybe 16, his face bruised, his clothes marking him as Iron Peak Pack. Last chance, boy, one of the men said. Where's the king headed? I don't know, the boy gasped. I just guard the gate. I don't track refugees. He's not a refugee. He's a wanted criminal, and the marked Omega with him is worth a fortune to the right buyer. The man pulled a silver knife. Now, where did they go? The boy closed his eyes. I don't know. Dante's hand went to Alara's shoulder, a clear message. Stay here. But she grabbed his wrist, shaking her head. 3 armed men against 1, even a king. The odds weren't good. Dante's jaw tightened, but he nodded. He pointed at himself, then at the men. Pointed at her, then at the boy. She understood. He'd create a distraction. She'd get the prisoner free. Before she could argue, he stepped into the clearing. "Looking for someone?" Dante's voice carried the full weight of alpha command. The three men spun, weapons rising. Recognition flashed across their faces. "The bounty on your head just made us rich," the leader said. "The bounty assumes you'll collect it." Dante smiled, all teeth. "I'm betting you won't." They attacked together. Dante shifted mid-charge, his black wolf form colliding with the first man like a battering ram. The clearing exploded into violence. Alara ran for the boy, pulling a sharp stone from her pocket. She'd been carrying it since the watchtower just in case. She sawed at his bindings while the sounds of battle raged behind her. The rope was thick, resistant. Her hands shook. "Hurry," the boy whispered. "I'm trying—" The rope snapped. "Run!" Alara pushed him toward the trees. A hand grabbed her hair, yanking her backward. She screamed. The leader had her, his knife at her throat, using her as a shield. "Call off your king, Omega, or I open your throat." Dante froze, mid-strike, blood on his muzzle. His golden eyes locked on the knife, pressing against her skin. "Let her go." Dante's voice, even in wolf form, resonated with power. "Your fight is with me. My fight is with money, and she's worth more alive." The knife pressed harder. Alara felt blood, warm against the cold. "Shift back, on your knees, or I carve her like a roast." Dante shifted, knelt. The submission cost him. She could see it in every line of his body. "Good dog," the man sneered. "Now stay." Warmth exploded from Alara's core. Not the healing warmth, something different. Something that felt like rage and moonlight and the absolute refusal to be broken again. Silver light poured from her body, blinding, searing. The man screamed and released her, stumbling back, his hands smoking where he'd touched her skin. Dante moved. It was over in seconds. Brutal, efficient, final. Alara collapsed, the light fading, leaving her gasping. Dante was beside her instantly, human again, checking her throat where the knife had cut. "It's shallow," he said, voice tight, "but it needs to be cleaned." "What did I do?" "You defended yourself. The Pathfinder gift isn't just healing, Alara. It's protection, balance. You can hurt what threatens the innocent." She looked at her hands, still glowing faintly. "I didn't know." "Now you do." He pulled her to her feet. "Can you walk?" She nodded. The boy emerged from the trees, eyes wide. "You saved me," he said to Alara. "Why? You don't know me." "I know what it's like to be helpless," Alara said simply. "I know what it costs." The boy looked at Dante. "Are you really the king?" "Yes." "Then you should know. The faction isn't just after you. They're planning something at the capital. An attack during the Festival of the Moon. They're going to burn the gardens." Dante went very still. "When?" 3 days from now. I heard the guards talking before they caught me. 3 days. The same timeline to reach Obsidian Hold. If they didn't make it, if Dante wasn't there to stop the attack, "We need to move," Dante said. "Now." They left the clearing at a run. The boy guided them to a shortcut, a river route that would cut a day off their journey. As they traveled, he told them what else he'd heard. The faction planned to declare Dante dead, crown their own king, and execute anyone who resisted. "They've been patient," the boy said, "waiting for the right moment. The festival is it. When the people are gathered, when the court is distracted, they'll strike from inside." "Who leads them?" Dante asked. "Your cousin, Marius Obsidian." Dante's expression went cold. "Of course it is." They reached the river by nightfall, following its bank north. The water moved fast here, not yet frozen despite the season. The sound of it covered their footsteps, gave them the illusion of safety. "Why does your cousin want your throne?" Alara asked as they made camp in a cave overlooking the water. "Because he thinks he deserves it more. Because when my father died, the crown passed to me, not him. Because—" Dante stared into the fire. "Because I'm everything my father wasn't, and Marius believes that's weakness. Being different isn't weakness. Try telling the court that." He laughed bitterly. "My father ruled through fear. Everyone loved him or pretended to because the alternative was death. When I took the throne, I tried to be better. I pardoned prisoners. I negotiated instead of executing. I opened the borders to refugees from the southern wars." He paused, "and every act of mercy was seen as proof I was unfit to lead." "So you stopped showing mercy?" "I tried to. I thought if I could be harder, stronger, more like him, the challenges would stop. But all I did was prove Marius right, that I was just pretending to be a king." His shoulders sagged. "I became exactly what I hated, and it still wasn't enough." Ilara moved to sit beside him. "Then maybe being enough isn't the goal, maybe being true is. And if my truth costs me the throne? Then you'll have lost a throne but kept your soul." She met his eyes. "Which matters more?" Dante studied her face, his expression raw. "I don't know anymore. Before I met you, I would have said the throne. But now—" He reached out, cupping her scarred cheek. "Now I think maybe there are things more important than power." "Like what?" "Like someone who sees you and doesn't flinch. Someone who makes you want to be better just by existing." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "Someone who makes you believe redemption is possible." The space between them felt electric, charged with everything unspoken. Ilara's breath caught. "Dante, I know," he said quietly. "Too fast, too much. You just escaped rejection. The last thing you need is another alpha complicating your life." "That's not what I was going to say." He went still. "No, I was going to say—" She leaned closer, close enough that their foreheads touched. "I'm scared. I'm terrified. Because when I look at you, I feel something I shouldn't. Something too big for 3 days. And I don't know if it's real or if I'm just broken and desperate and—" He kissed her. Gentle, careful, asking permission with every second. Ilara froze for a heartbeat, then melted into it, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. The kiss deepened, turned desperate, both of them pouring 3 days of tension and terror and impossible connection into it. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante pressed his forehead to hers. "That felt real to me," he whispered. "Me too," she admitted. "Where does that leave us?" "I don't know. But—" She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "Can we figure it out after we save your kingdom?" A smile, real and warm. "Deal. Like if you believe rejection can become destiny." They reached Obsidian Hold at sunset on the second day, just as the Festival of the Moon began. The city sprawled across the mountainside, black glass walls catching the dying light like frozen fire. Banners hung from every tower, and music drifted up from the lower districts. People filled the streets, unaware of the betrayal brewing in their midst. "We need to reach the throne room before Marius makes his move," Dante said. They stood in the shadow of the outer wall, hidden by the boy's knowledge of smuggler routes. "Once I'm there, the old laws protect me. He can't move against me openly." "What about the gardens?" Ilara asked. "If we stop Marius, we stop the attack." Dante's jaw tightened. "Everything hinges on reaching that throne." They entered through a servant's passage, the boy leading. Inside, the hold was a maze of corridors and staircases, everything carved from black volcanic glass that seemed to drink the light. Servants rushed past, arms full of supplies for the festival, too busy to notice 3 more bodies in the chaos. "The throne room is 3 levels up," the boy whispered, "but the main stairs will be guarded." "Then we take the back way," Dante said. The back way was a narrow maintenance shaft that climbed straight up through the heart of the mountain. Dante went first, then Ilara, then the boy. The shaft was barely wide enough for Dante's shoulders, the walls slick with condensation. Ilara's arms burned from the climb, but she forced herself upward, rung by rung. They emerged in a storage room behind the throne hall. Through the door they could hear voices, the court gathered for the festival celebration. Hundreds of people, all in one place, perfect targets for an attack. Dante pressed his ear to the door. Marius is speaking. His expression went dark. He's proclaiming me dead, declaring himself king. We need to stop him, Alara said. The moment I step through that door, he'll know I'm alive. It'll force his hand. Whatever he's planning, it'll happen immediately. Then we make sure we're ready. Dante looked at her, then at the boy. I need you both to get to the gardens. Find Thera, tall woman, silver hair, usually covered in dirt. Tell her what's happening. She'll evacuate the people. What about you? Alara demanded. I'm walking through that door and taking back my throne. He gripped her shoulders. But I need to know you're safe first. Please, Ilara, let me do this knowing you're protected. Every instinct screamed against it, but she saw the desperation in his eyes, the need to know she'd survive, even if he didn't. Okay, she said, but if you die in there, I'm going to be very angry. He smiled, quick and fierce, then kissed her hard. Hold that thought. He straightened, adjusted his travel-worn clothes, and pushed open the door. The throne room fell silent. Dante strode down the center aisle, every eye on him, whispers erupting like wildfire. At the far end, seated on the black throne, Marius Obsidian froze, his face cycling through shock, fury, and fear. Hello, cousin. Dante's voice carried to every corner. I hear you've been busy in my absence. Marius recovered quickly, standing. Guards, seize that man. He's an imposter. I'm not an imposter. I'm your king. Dante reached the base of the throne platform. And by the old laws, I claim sanctuary in this room. You cannot touch me here. The old laws apply to legitimate rulers, Marius said smoothly. You abandoned your throne. You fled the capital like a coward. That makes you forfeit. I was betrayed by my own guard and hunted like an animal. I survived, and I returned. That makes me stronger than you gave me credit for. Marius descended the steps slowly. Even if you are Dante, which I doubt, you're too late, the court has already sworn to me. The kingdom is mine. Is it? Dante turned to face the assembled nobles. How many of you swore to Marius because you wanted to? And how many swore because you were afraid of what he'd do if you refused? Silence. Uncomfortable, telling silence. That's what I thought. Dante looked back at Marius. You've ruled through fear, just like my father. Just like I did. But fear makes for a fragile foundation, cousin. One push, and it all comes down. Big words from a man with no army. I don't need an army. I have something better. And what's that? The truth. Dante addressed the court. For 7 years, I've tried to be the king my father was, strong, decisive, ruthless when necessary. And all it did was tear us apart. Well, I'm done trying to be him. From this moment forward, I rule as myself, flawed, uncertain, but willing to do what he never could. I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong. I'm willing to ask for help. I'm willing to show mercy without calling it weakness. Mercy is weakness, Marius sneered. That's why you're unfit. Then I'm proudly unfit. Dante's eyes blazed gold. Because I've learned something these past days. True strength isn't refusing to bend. It's bending without breaking. It's choosing to build instead of destroy. The throne room seemed to hold its breath. You're a fool, Marius said, and his hand moved to his belt. The guards moved with him, not to seize Dante, but to surround Marius. The captain of the guard stepped forward, his face grim. Your Majesty, the captain said, bowing to Dante, we found evidence of the plot. Marius paid for the assassination attempt on the mountain. He orchestrated the attack on your guard, and he's arranged for the festival fires to spread to the gardens tonight. The captain gestured, and guards brought forward documents, correspondence, damning proof. He's committed treason. Marius's face contorted with rage. "You're all fools. A king who shows mercy is a king who dies. You'll see, when the northerners attack, when the southern kingdom moves to take our lands, you'll all be begging for a real king." "Enough," Dante said quietly. 2 guards took Marius by the arms. He fought them, screaming threats, but they dragged him from the throne room. The doors closed behind them, cutting off his voice. The silence that followed was profound. Then, slowly, the nobles began to kneel. One by one, hundreds of people bowed before the throne, before Dante Obsidian, before something new. Dante stood very still, watching them, and Alara saw the moment understanding struck him. He'd won. Not through force or fear, but through truth. She didn't stay to see more. She and the boy ran through the halls toward the gardens, following the route he remembered. Behind them, the palace was transforming. Servants rushing to extinguish the fires that had been set, chaos becoming order. The gardens were exactly as Dante had described, glass ceiling, heated by underground springs, blooming with impossible flowers in the midst of winter. And at the center, kneeling beside a fountain, was a woman with silver hair. "Thera?" Ilara gasped. The woman looked up, and something flickered in her ancient eyes. Recognition. Knowledge. "The Pathfinder," she breathed. After all these years, the goddess finally sent her. "There's an attack coming," Ilara said quickly. "The festival fires." "I know." Thera stood with surprising grace for her age. "I've already begun evacuating people. The gardens are the safest place in the hold. The old magic protects them." She studied Ilara with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. "But you're not here just to warn me, are you? You're here because you're connected to him." "To the king? To your fate." Thera moved to a rose bush, its flowers the color of spilled wine. "Do you know why Pathfinders are rare, child? It's because they're born only when the kingdom needs healing most desperately, and they're always born with a scar." Ilara touched her scarred arm. "How did you—" "Because I knew the last Pathfinder, 3 centuries ago." Thera plucked a rose, the thorns drawing blood from her palm. "She healed a kingdom at the cost of her own life. She loved the Alpha King of that time, and she chose to save him instead of saving herself." Thera handed Ilara the rose, blood dripping from its stem. "I swore I would protect the next Pathfinder if she ever came. I swore she wouldn't make the same choice. Dante won't ask me to die for him." "No," Thera said softly, "but you might ask it of yourself." 3 months later, Obsidian Hold bloomed. The gardens had expanded under Ilara's touch. Flowers grew where there had been stone. Herbs that healed sprouted in careful rows. The underground springs ran warmer, fed by some magic that seemed to respond to her presence. She'd become the Pathfinder in truth, walking the halls of the Hold, teaching nobles how to see mercy as strength, healing wounds, both physical and political, with her hands and her words. The throne room had been transformed too. Dante had removed the high seat from its isolated platform, placing it among the regular chairs. He held court, sitting at table with his advisors, not above them. It was radical. It was effective. And slowly, impossibly, it was working. Marius had been exiled to the far territories, stripped of his title, given one final chance to choose a better path. Some said it was too merciful. Dante ignored them. Ilara stood in the gardens at sunset, watching the light turn the glass ceiling to gold. Dante found her there, as he always did, when the day's duties were finished. "Thera wants to teach you the old magic," he said, coming to stand beside her. "The deeper healing, the kind that fixes what runs through bloodlines." "I don't know if I'm ready." "You are." He took her hand, threading his fingers through hers. "You healed me, remember? And not just the arrow wound. You healed the part of me that had forgotten how to hope. That's different. Is it?" He turned to face her fully. "Ilara, look at what you've done here. Look at what the kingdom has become since you arrived. You didn't have to do any of this. You could have taken your healing gift and disappeared, but you didn't. Because you asked me to stay. I asked. You chose. He reached into his pocket and withdrew something small and glimmering. And now I'm asking for something more. It was a ring, silver, with a single black stone that seemed to contain starlight. Ilara's breath caught. Dante. Not as a mate bond, not as ownership or possession or anything that chained you to me. His eyes held hers. But as a choice, a partnership, a promise that whatever comes next, we face it together. That you're not just my pathfinder or my healer, but my equal, my home. Tears blurred her vision. The court will never accept it. An Omega and an Alpha King. The court will accept it because I decree it. But more importantly, because they've seen what you can do. Because they've watched you teach their children to be braver. Because you've become something legendary, Ilara. You're the Omega who saved the king and changed the kingdom. He paused. But that's not why I'm asking. Why then? Because when you look at me, I don't see pity for my scars or fear of my power. I see someone who sees me, all of me. The good and the broken and the parts I'm still trying to heal. He held out the ring. I'm asking because I love you. Because 3 months ago, you saved a dying wolf in the snow, and in that moment, everything changed. Ilara took the ring with trembling hands. She slid it onto her finger, and the black stone seemed to warm against her skin. I love you too, she whispered. And I'm terrified, but I love you. Dante pulled her close, and they stood in the golden light of the gardens, 2 people scarred and broken and somehow made whole by finding each other in the darkness. The roses bloomed around them, blood-red and fierce and beautiful, their thorns catching the last rays of sun. The festival of redemption was held a month later, when the spring snow began to fall and the kingdom held its breath between seasons. Ilara stood in her chambers, staring at the wedding gown Thera had commissioned. It was not white. She was no innocent bride, and both of them knew it. Instead, the fabric was the color of moonlight, shifting between silver and gray as she moved. The scars on her arm and shoulder were visible, deliberately so, not hidden behind veils or sleeves. You're beautiful, a voice said from the doorway. Ilara turned to find the boy from the mountains. No longer a boy, but a young man now called Kai, who had chosen to stay at the hold and serve the king. You're supposed to be with Dante. Bad luck to see the bride before the ceremony. Old tradition, new king, new rules. Kai grinned. Besides, he sent me to give you this. He held out a note, sealed with black wax. Ilara opened it to find Dante's handwriting, bold and certain. To my pathfinder, my love, my home. They say every Alpha King carries a wound. They say every Omega was born to heal one. But I think they had it backwards. I think you were born to choose strength over survival, to choose hope over despair, to choose me, knowing full well what you were getting. I don't deserve you. But I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret choosing me. Come walk with me into whatever comes next. Ilara held the note to her chest, smiling through tears. He's very romantic for someone so scary, Kai observed. He's not scary, he's just been pretending to be all his life. She moved to the mirror one more time, checking her appearance. The scars, are they visible enough? I want everyone to see them. Everyone will see them, Kai assured her. And they'll understand. You're not trying to be something you're not. That's what everyone's been waiting for. A leader who's honest about the cost of survival. The ceremony was held in the throne room, transformed for the occasion. The high seat had been brought back but placed to the side, witness rather than judge. The floor was covered in rose petals, blood-red ones mixed with white, a deliberate blend of the old and new. Ilara walked down the center aisle alone, Dante had asked if she wanted a father or elder to walk her, but she'd refused. She had no pack now, no family, except the one she was choosing to build. So she walked alone, proud and scarred, and completely herself. Dante waited at the altar, dressed in black and silver, his golden eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her knees weak. When she reached him, he took her hands, and the whole room seemed to exhale. "You came," he said quietly, "only for her. I promised I would." The ceremony was brief. They exchanged rings. They exchanged vows. They spoke words of commitment in front of witnesses, but the real moment came at the end, when Dante pulled her close and whispered, "Thank you for seeing me." And she whispered back, "Thank you for healing me." When they kissed, the court erupted in cheers, and the gardens, visible through the glass ceiling far above, burst into simultaneous bloom, flowers opening all at once as if responding to the moment itself. Epilogue. 5 years later, Ilara stood in the gardens with a child in her arms, a daughter with Dante's golden eyes and Ilara's dark hair. The girl was just beginning to show signs of her own gift, small flowers blooming wherever her fingers touched. Dante found them there, as he always did, drawn by some invisible thread that bound them together. "She healed a falcon today," Ilara said, watching their daughter examine her own glowing hands with wonder. "A bird with a broken wing, it just fixed itself." Like mother, like daughter. Dante wrapped his arms around them both. "What will we name her?" Ilara smiled. "Luna, after the moon that guided us through the darkness." Perfect. The kingdom had changed in 5 years. Mercy had not proven weakness. Compassion had not toppled the throne. Instead, it had made it stronger, built on something more solid than fear. The gardens had expanded beyond the hold, spreading throughout the territory. Pathfinders were being sought out and trained, their gifts no longer feared but celebrated. And in the black glass halls of Obsidian Hold, a king and his pathfinder ruled together, proving that redemption was possible, that rejection could become destiny, that a broken heart could become the strongest foundation of all. The rose with blood on its stem had never faded. It grew in a crystal vase in the throne room, eternal and perfect, a reminder of the price and the gift of healing. Every night, Ilara and Dante stood at the glass ceiling of the gardens and watched the moon rise, painting their shadows silver. They held each other in the starlight, two scarred souls who had learned that strength and tenderness were not opposites. They were the same thing, viewed from different angles. And in the darkness beyond the mountains, new stories were beginning to form, waiting for their own redemption, their own king, their own pathfinder. The moon kept watch, as it always had, as it always would. If your heart beat alongside ours, like, comment, and subscribe. Because every soul that joins our moon keeps the flame of redemption alive.